from the San Francisco Bay Area. This is Athletics Talk Now with Dale Tafoya, one of the fastest growing podcasts about your Oakland A's. Join us as we celebrate the past and embrace the future of A's baseball. Let's jump right into the action with author, host, and journalist Dale Tafoya.
We recently inserted a photo collage of former A's pitcher Rick Langford on our Facebook page. You can search Athletics Talk Now on Facebook. And the reason we inserted it is not because Rick Langford was an elite pitcher for the A's. In fact, he pitched for the A's for parts of 10 seasons, and his career record was 73 and 106, with an ERA of 4.06. He had years of 8-19, 7-13, and 11-16 for whatever that's worth. You say that's mediocrity. But mediocre or not, Rick Langford, who was traded from the Pirates with Tony Armas and Mitchell Page to the A's in 1977, Rick Langford is a part of A's history. But did you know Rick Langford led all of Major League Baseball in complete games in 1980 with 28? And there hasn't been any pitcher close to that since then. To illustrate how incredible that number is, Max Scherzer, last year's AL Cy Young Award winner, do you know how many complete games he had? 0. After his career, Rick Langford was quoted as saying, "When I had the ball, my intentions, my effort, my reasoning behind everything was to complete that game. It was my game, unless I really screwed it up in some fashion." That was the approach that not only me, but a lot of guys had. End of quote. And that's why I love doing this podcast, because this franchise is so rich in history. This franchise is bigger than Billy Beane, bigger than Jose Canseco, bigger than Reggie Jackson, bigger than Dennis Eckersley, bigger than the city of Philadelphia, bigger than Connie Mack, and bigger than Kansas City, and even bigger than the city of Oakland. You say, Dale, I just started going to A's games because Mark Mulder was gorgeous. The Bash brothers hit monster home runs. Ricky Henderson was so fast, and that's great. And we all have that special experience that compelled us to be A's fans, right? But if you can get anything from this podcast, expand your horizons beyond 1971, 1988, beyond 2001, 2013. Know your history. Welcome, Oakland A's fans around the world. My name is Dale Tafoya, and this is another episode of Athletics Talk Now. This is podcast number 124. It is Tuesday, January 21st, 2014. We'd like to encourage you to listen to every podcast on iTunes. Just search Athletics Talk Now. We also have a website, athleticstalknow.com, where you can listen to all of our podcasts. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Athletics AD. And today, we're doing something new. And this is going to be fun for some of you A's fans. As I mentioned earlier, we all have a story or experience on how our love affair with the A's began. And I'm going to be interviewing some of you to discuss your story. I first began following the A's when I was flipping through the channels as an 8-year-old and saw Mickey Klutz and Rob Piccolo man the A's infield back in like 1980. Strange, huh? But that was my story. And we're going to be hearing your story soon. And on today's podcast, I want to welcome our newest blogger, Seth Honeycutt, to the show. He's a diehard A's fan and really is educated about the team and its history. Let's get his story. Seth, what's up, man?
Hey, hi there. Thanks for having me on, Dale.
Seth, tell me about your upbringing in the Bay Area, your first exposure to A's baseball, and what compelled you to become an A's fan.
Well, I grew up in the East Bay. I am a San Lorenzo native, so well within the vicinity of the A's and the base here. I became a fan when I was a little kid. Around 1987 was the first year that I really followed baseball. And really, looking back, that was really the perfect time to become an A's fan because that's right when that team was kind of burgeoning. We had the Bash brothers, Dave Stewart, Eckersley, and pretty much from 1988 through 1992, they kept adding different guys. Ricky Henderson came on in 1989. Dave Parker was a pretty big free agent signing. And it was just like a really great team to watch, really fun, captivating, lots of swagger, and they were winners. And it was a great time to be a fan.
You know, Seth, when I was in elementary and high school, you usually have evenings free and you can watch A's games anytime, every day. And that's when I really started to study A's baseball. But when we become adults, we have jobs and kids, and it's more challenging to follow the team as closely as we'd like. How do you, as a fan, balance your schedule and find time to stay in tune of what's going on with the club?
Well, it's a very, very interesting point. And then I think you're dead on right. Like when we were kids and we would come home after school and maybe play sports and whatnot, but then we would watch a lot of baseball. And actually having a two-market team here, I watched quite a few Giants games as well, and that kind of gave me a further baseball education. But now, I think with our busy schedules, we're lucky to live in a time now with social media and with the internet. And so even if you can't watch all the games as they're happening live, you can catch up on everything really quickly and really fast and in such a detailed manner that you can still really find the time whenever you have 5-10 minutes free to just follow the team, maybe get the rundown of what happened with the game or look at who they've been signing. So there's ways to do it, even though we all have busy schedules. And I know baseball isn't always a top priority for people with families and people working and struggling to make ends meet. But we have such a special thing right now with the internet just to do this, and to be able to follow this in this manner.
And if you'd have told me when I was a kid that in 2014 I would be able to get on my iPhone and see an entire A's game, and I would think you're crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds terrible, but during the playoffs, I was hanging out with some friends. They didn't have a TV. I couldn't watch the game, but I was able to follow the whole game on my phone. I was trying not to be a rude guest too, but I followed the entire game. I probably hollered in some weird places, but I was able to follow the entire game on my phone, which is crazy. I would have never thought that back in 1987, 1988.
The voice you're hearing is Seth Honeycutt, one of our newest bloggers to join athleticstalknow.com. Seth, I have two really crushing and sad moments as an A's fan. And that was when my favorite player, Jose Canseco, was traded to Texas on August 31st, 1992. And when Jason Giambi, the team leader, the heart and soul, signed with the Yankees after the 2001 season.
Yeah,
can you recall your most trying moment as an A's fan, Seth?
Oof, man, yeah. I mean, we've had a few, and I won't go the easy route and say the past two seasons because those have been pretty crushing losses in the playoffs. But I will say the first one that comes to mind is the 1988 World Series, and when Kirk Gibson hobbled up and hit that home run off X, that was a pretty devastating moment. Like, that was the first World Series game I'd ever seen the A's play in, and just to have that happen in such a dramatic manner, it kind of took the wind out of the sails of that whole team. I don't think you can really say that a World Series is won based off one at bat. Looking back on it, it's hard not to argue that, like in that case. And that was really devastating at that time. I really wanted the A's to win. I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was just, that was rough. And more recently, I think if I had to put, man, there's been a lot. Sorry, but probably the 2003 season. I thought that team was really great, and they played such an amazing Game 1 versus the Red Sox, and to lose in that manner after 3 straight years of losing in Game 5 was pretty rough on me as well. So.
And that was the year Eric Burns tripped over Veritek at the plate. Okay, I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think, it was rough. I think also to compound it, just coming on back to back after those 2000, 2001, 2002 teams, they're just really rough. You just really want to see the A's break through and get to that next level.
Yeah,
and then it looked like they were going to, and it just didn't happen again.
You know, Seth, baseball has a strong history of healing and sometimes distracting us from tragedy and the storms of life. It has always been there for me 8 to 9 months out of the year. Can you speak about how A's baseball has helped you in that regard?
I think that's a very good point, too. I mean, we all go through personal tragedy in our lives. And I think the thing about baseball that's different from, say, football or even on some level basketball and hockey is baseball is every day, especially during the season, obviously. But so you can turn to baseball literally every day, and as an A's fan, it's just like nice to it gives you a level of consistency that some of the other sports don't, even though they're all amazing as well. But baseball really, you can turn to it every day, daily, and that's just something you could turn to for comfort in those tough moments.
A's GM Billy Beane has always reminded the A's fan base, Seth, that the focus should be on the name on the front of the jersey, not the back. The team, athletics, not any specific player. And with the revolving door on the team each year, it's tough to emotionally attach yourself to one player because they could be gone. And now, years later, we have been conditioned to that. How hard was that for you to adjust to as a diehard A's fan, Seth?
You know, I'll tell you this. I think now we're also kind of numb to it. It doesn't even really rate. But I'll tell you that, like in the mid-'90s when the A's kind of went on a little downturn, I think that's when I first realized kind of the business of baseball. And like you mentioned earlier, seeing Jose Canseco get traded. I remember Big Mac getting traded to the Cardinals in 1997 was kind of rough too, and it kind of almost made me like during that time, I definitely like my fandom waned like a little bit. I was a teenager, I was in high school, lots of different distractions, but the fact that I didn't really know the team well also, and it wasn't a team that I'd kind of come of age with, was a major factor. And then it wasn't until 2000 where I really kind of dialed back in and then at that point I'd become kind of accustomed to it. But then having said that, it's still a shame to see players that you love and you grow to love, and like no matter what Bean says, like this is a game of people. Like you can't help but learn about the people and root for the people that are playing as well, like not just the name on the front.
And I can remember, as you mentioned, Seth, that drought of A's being in the postseason from the early mid-'90s to about 2000. And there was the Haas family sold the team to Schott and Hoffman, and just a big change. As you mentioned, Big Mac went to the Cardinals, Steinbach went to the Twins, and Tony La Russa started managing the Cardinals. So lots of change, and it was that first 2000 season where the A's began making another playoff run, and they continued there for the next few years.
Yeah, and just like that really, I mean, probably not just me, like it really, that 2000 season, sort of like the 2012 season as well, it really lit a fire, I think, under the fan base, kind of brought us back into the fold, so to speak, like people that had been kind of looking around and I mean, like at that age, I would say 2000 really from like then on, I've been dialed in even during some of their lean years, like from 2007 through like 2011, I still followed the team very, very closely after that.
Shifting our focus on the place we watch A's baseball, Seth, and a place where some of us grew up, the Oakland Coliseum. Give us your thoughts on the antiquated Coliseum and any special memories and moments there, Seth.
Well, I'll tell you what, I guess I'm old enough to have seen it before the mid-'90s renovations, and I have to say, at that time, it was a pretty nice place to watch a baseball game. You had a beautiful view of the Oakland Hills. There's some nice shrubbery and plants in the outfield, and it was a nice place. But it hasn't aged so well. And then some of the renovations made because of football and whatnot have changed the atmosphere of the stadium. But I think it's like anything else, and I think maybe fans of the Mets would say this about Shea Stadium. Even though it's not the prettiest place, it's your place. And then I've seen so much A's history happen there on that field that even when we get a new stadium, which I'll be very grateful for, like I'll have a memory in my heart about the Coliseum. I was there during the 2003 playoffs for Game 1 when Razor Ramon Hernandez laid down that bunt to win the game, and that place blew up. Like, it was filled to the brim. This was before the tarp business, so like we were up in the third deck, and it can be a really loud, amazing place when it's filled and when it has a playoff atmosphere to it. Like even this past season, Tigers players were mentioning that as well. Like just the vibe of the stadium.
Let's talk about some of your favorites in A's history, Seth. Which team was your favorite?
Wow, which team was my favorite? I'd have to say all time. I'm going to go back to my childhood and say that 1989 team was great, but I was really in love with the 1990 team as well. That was a team that was kind of the culmination of that whole time. It really had some major superstars on it. Ricky Henderson had already become entrenched back in the A's fold, and then I think they signed Willie Randolph and like some other veterans to kind of fill some gaps, and like that team was stacked, and it was really a shame again in the 1990 World Series when the Reds just kind of crushed them in 4 games. Like that was not a very pleasant World Series. But that team was amazing, and I think it was just the culmination of that whole era, like that 1990 team. You can look at it. It was like such a stacked team. Like there was no doubt that they were going to be winners.
Mm-hmm. We talked about your favorite team. Now, who's your all-time favorite A's player, Seth?
Well, this is going to be probably a little bit outside the box. And I have many favorite players, but I really say I love to watch Jason Kendall play. I know that's probably not the name that most people would like think of most, but Jason Kendall was just one. I think he was just kind of the rough, hard-nosed player, and then I know that he was just fun to watch. Like he looked a little quirky up there. He wasn't the best hitter, but he looked like he would just have your back and just like take the team on his shoulders. Like the moment when he charged the mound and hit John Lackey in the face was pretty amazing. As an Angels fan of that rivalry, I think that he definitely wasn't the best player ever. He wasn't even the best catcher. Like he's probably not in the top 5 all-time of A's catchers, but he was. I thought he was amazing.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, John Lackey would agree.
Yeah.
What's your favorite moment in A's history?
My favorite moment in A's history, I think, of all time, I would love to say the 1989 World Series victory, but because of the earthquake and everything that was going on then, it wasn't very celebrated. I think that this is going to be cliche, and it was probably featured heavily in the movie, but the winning streak in 2002 was just a joy to watch, and that team was kind of dead in the water before that. Like they weren't really in the playoff hunt. People were counting them out, and then that whole run just brought them back, and it was just like a fun team. They had lost Jason Giambi, they had lost some of their superstars and were kind of discounted, I think, by some. But it was a fun moment.
Spring training is a little less than a month away, Seth. What's your thoughts going into the 2014 season?
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting year. I think they brought back a lot of their pieces that they had last year. But I think the Angels are going to be competitive. The Rangers are going to be the same team they've been the past 5 years. Like the Mariners have made some moves, but I think it's going to be a fun season. I think I'm ready for spring training.
That's Seth Honeycutt. My name is Dale Tafoya, and this was our debut segment of My Story, when we talk to you, A's fans, and get your story. Thanks for listening, A's fans.